So welcome back to another episode of the CGU Learning Center. Today we are talking with Emily Drouin. Emily's really cool. She's a female artist, and she also does the KidsCon New England event, which we've participated in at least once. So welcome, Emily. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Now, if I understand right, you just received a really big honor. You got inducted to the American Cartoonists Society?
Yeah, the National Cartoonists Society. I'm so excited, so thrilled to be, an honor to be a part of so many major cartoonists across the country and the world are in it too. Or I think it's just the national, this country. They might have other divisions in other countries, but for the US, yeah.
Still, that's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations, that is amazing.
Thank you so much.
So I'm sure what most people want to know is, how did you get started in drawing?
Well, I always loved drawing ever since I was a little kid. And I think what really fueled that was going to the library and just my love of books, children's books, and also comics, like in the Sunday paper. I was a big fan of that. And so my parents, they saw my love. I was always drawing as a kid, and they got me signed up for art classes. And so I started when I was 5 years old at the Curio Museum. It's in Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm from Manchester. And then all the way through college, I continued my art. And now to this day, I've had several books published, and I'm just so excited to be living in the dream, doing my passion for work.
That's everyone's goal, isn't it? Is to be able to do what you love and actually be able to make a living at it.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely a hard, long road.
That's right. I forgot to mention, Emily is also a New Englander. She's just south of Maine, New Hampshire, next state over.
Yeah.
What kind of schooling did you do to become an artist?
Yeah, I did several art schools. Highly recommend you start, if you love to draw cartoons, that's great, but you need to really start at the basics of traditional illustration and traditional drawing. And so I went to the Curio Museum of Art School in Manchester, and then the New Hampshire Institute of Art. And then I got my bachelor's of art and graphic design at Keene State College. And those are all New Hampshire schools.
Oh, wow. So what kind of series and characters do you work with, or that you created, rather?
Yeah, I love drawing comics, and I have indie comics I created. I self-published, which I first started off. I have a couple here. So Uplift Comics, wacky sci-fi. I actually worked on with my husband. Jeremy Drouin did most of the writing. So it was fun to have a collaboration, and I highly recommend to anyone interested in doing any creative project to have a collaboration with someone else. Definitely, you can spin your ideas off of each other. It's great. And I also did a kind of a quirky teen romantic comedy called Hyperdork. Superhero, he gets his buzz on caffeine and tries to impress the ladies. Right. But it's about embracing all your flaws and who you are. And I really loved working on this. It was written by Jimmy Francis, and he's a comedian over in LA. And so that was a fun project. And then I've also done coloring activity books I've published, as well as recently I've had the Pumpkin Wizard children's book series.
Ooh, with fall right around the corner,
Yeah. So this one's really fun. This is created by Derek Dextrays, and also written by Caitlin Crowley. And so there are so far 3 books in the series, and the 4th book is going to be coming out just in time for the holidays. It's a Christmas themed book, so super excited about that.
Oh, nice. So you've got stuff coming out for the holidays.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's interesting. So you draw the Ipless comics, you do the artwork, and your husband writes, so it's really a family project for you.
Yeah, and that also got us into going to Comic-Cons too, which I first started at Granite State Comic-Con in New Hampshire, and I just enjoyed doing that so much. And I started I really love teaching kids cartooning in the arts, so I brought up the idea at Granite Con, as well as other Comic Cons, about, hey, I'd love to participate and do a kids area where I can teach workshops. And so I offered to run this kids space, and we call it a Kids Con, mini Comic Con within conventions. And so that's how Kids Con New England was born. It became so popular, I was going on tour throughout New England and running kids zones, kids cons. And that inspired me to create a whole convention devoted just to kids. So Kids Con New England, and we have events in New Hampshire, tend to do it in Nashua, New Hampshire, and also in Portland, Maine. We just had our fall show. And unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to reschedule our events this year.
Going on right now. So, yeah. So you work on a comic with your husband. You've got collaborations. You also teach cartooning to kids, and you head up KidsCon. You are one amazing and busy lady.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I also do private instruction too, as well as I taught at several art schools, and like the Kimball Jenkins in Concord, and also the Curio. And I also taught at schools too. I did some throughout New Hampshire. So
you said you and your husband tour conventions, about, obviously pre-COVID, about how many conventions would you participate in?
Oh man, I don't know, maybe like 50 or so. I'm trying to think, since I started tabling at shows in 2013. So, okay, I don't know, we probably do like a dozen or more a year. I think the first year I did like 20, and then it was like a dozen or so every year.
So the two main conventions I always see you at is MECAF and Portland Comic Expo.
Yep. Yeah, those are great shows. I enjoy doing that, also doing the kids' zones there as well. And as far as, I know the comic book shop owners up there, Casablanca Comics, Rick Lowell, he's great. And also Double Midnight Comics in Manchester and Concord, the Prue brothers. They're great to work with.
Okay, so kind of a weird question for you, but I have read it online, and I've heard from some other female creators. When you table with your husband, has anyone ever mistaken him for the artist and talked to him kind of ignoring you?
Yeah, I bet that.
It does happen, yeah.
Yeah, and then because the first banners I had, it just had our comics, so it said Upless, and then he kept getting that question, especially if I had to go up and like run a workshop or something. I'd be away from my table. And so then my next banner, I had my name, Emily Drouin. So then they saw Emily, like, you don't look like Emily. But then that wouldn't work if you had a name that could go, you know, both ways. But Emily is typically, you know.
Someone started coming up to him, talk about the books, and, you know, like they were his. How did he handle that?
I think he's great talking with people, and he loved to interact. And I mean, he collaborated on the books. So, you know, he was happy to talk about it too. So I couldn't ask for better support system than to have them around. So really, if you have any family, you know, they're the best to help you.
Right. Well, you have a partner in crime, Accessibility Mike.
Yeah.
So tell me more about KidsCon. I mean, what goes into organizing and putting something like that together?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. A whole year's work goes into a single day show, which is pretty crazy. But going to a bunch of Comic Cons, I definitely developed a greater network, connected with other artists who also had a passion for creating children's content. And so that really helped me in getting the support and encouragement to start the kids convention. And also they were seeking, there weren't any conventions that were specifically just for kids when I created. And KidsCon New England was the first kids Comic Con in New England. Oh, so wow. It's pretty neat. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, often I'd be tabled right next to like a bloody, gory comic. And so I tried at several conventions to tell them, wouldn't it be nice if we just had a whole row of just children's book creators and comic book creators, you know, all family-friendly content.
Well, makes sense.
Like a Kids Alley or something, and no one really seemed to want to do that idea. So that's why I was like, well, I'm just going to create my own convention. So yeah, and doing that. So in going to all these shows definitely helps my networking and to meet all these creators and to help also spread the word about KidsCon and to get people excited about it. So
how, as a creator, how valuable is networking with what you do?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing too now is social media. And that's a great way to connect with people, especially during these times of COVID. And
which is why we're doing this.
yeah. So I highly recommend on, you know, Facebook and Instagram and any social media. And a lot of people are doing art videos too. I've been doing some on my Twitch channel, and
Awesome.
I've been also, I wanted to run I did a online event back in May, because when we had to sadly announce that we had to reschedule our KidsCon New England event in Nashua. So I reached out to the creators and like, we're going to do an online event. So we had everyone submit videos, because we thought of doing it live on like Zoom, but we were afraid of that. Maybe someone might hack in, you know, because that was going on. And we wanted to make sure that everything was going to be safe for kids and like family friendly. So we kind of wanted to screen that process before we posted it. Yeah. So it worked out great. We had creators from across the country submit videos and workshops, and we had musical performances, puppet shows, all the fun that we would have had at our in-person event, we were able to put online as a 2-day show that we did as a live premiere on YouTube and Facebook. And so that was May 16th and 17th. We went with KidsCon online live. And now all those videos, as well as like a show list of video library, is free for everyone to watch at our kidscononline.com website. And so you can feel free to show that. And we also have free coloring pages and activities for the kids. So to keep being entertained.
So even though you can't physically have your con to do work with kids, you're doing as much as you can to continue your education efforts.
Yeah, definitely. And I love to do more videos. I actually have these little animated characters I do called the Comic Explorers. And I wanted to create this as like a reading rainbow for comics. And so I started this show, and I am featuring comic creators, like indie comic creators, characters. And so my characters interact with them, they do a little interview, and then I showcase their comic and we do a read through, and then I teach them how to draw the characters from the comics. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm looking to get more creators who would love to be on the show.
That's awesome. So yeah, you're doing everything you can to keep going. So for people who might not know how much work goes into a convention, can you just kind of bullet point kind of what the process is from start to launch, so to speak?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is trying to find a venue.
Right.
And that can be really hard, especially when you're starting off first, you don't know exactly how many people may show up, which is one thing. We ran into our first show. You also can't just go super big and have like what Boston Comic Con had, you know, this big venue center, because for one, that's a ton of money that you can't afford. And, you know, you got to start small, you got to start somewhere, right? Especially if everything's coming out of your pocket.
First year cons are usually traditionally small to see kind of what the reaction is and to kind of work out the tweaks.
Right, and it's definitely an experiment, you know, and you work out the tweaks as you go. Each year keeps getting better and better, and you learn to solve more problems, and, you know, if any things can arise, and you just do your best to nip those things in the bud, you know, right then and there. It's great to have friends if they can help you in like volunteering, just to kind of walk around the convention and check on things, and, you know, like can report back to you, and just have people on the floor. And we love to have our friends involved, you know, because we trust them, and it's great to have that support system. And also, so So we started that, you get your venue, and then you can slowly start a small venue and then grow from there. And there aren't a whole lot of big venue spaces, you know, kind of, or ones that are like in the middle to large venue space. But if you look on Google, you can type in venues, you can find wherever you are. Then it's getting the word out there, and again, social media, going to conventions, printing out, you know, posters and flyers, putting them up at local businesses. I did a ton of driving all around throughout the states, putting up signs, like, you know, those political signs you see.
The long signs there, yeah.
Yeah. So I had my car packed with signs. I was putting them up all over the place, and then putting up posters, and it's a ton of work, you know, but it's just so cool. And you drive by and you're like, oh, there's my sign. Or people then they say, oh, I saw your poster, you know, at the store. And so again, if you have any friends, if you can mail them posters and stuff and have a little help too. So doing that, getting the word out in social media, having a Facebook page, and then creating an event page for that particular event. And then also posting on like Instagram and pictures. I love to feature the artists. So each post will be about an artist appearing. And so getting that and help promoting them is a big part of it, because, you know, you want to help them too. And so, yeah, and that's what it's all about. And I just love bringing the creators together, and it's such a magical experience.
We were able to do last year's KidsCon in South Portland at the Doubletree. Yep. And yeah, from our experience, you had so much going on. There were workshops. You had the main Whovians with the TARDIS, you had the main Ghostbusters, you had Pine State Heroes and superhero Q&A, as well as all the artists and the different activities people were doing at their tables. So it was a loss. If there's even Santa Claus walking around and kids could write letters to Santa and give them directly to him, which was just amazing as well. So you put a lot into it, and I don't think people realize how much work goes into a con, because if you're just an attendee, you sort of take it for granted. It's like, oh, look, here's the info. Yeah, I'll share it with my friends. And then you pay the admission fee and you go. And you have like no idea what goes on behind the scenes to make all that happen.
Yeah, definitely. It takes a lot of organization, and it's, if you, like I said, if you go to shows, I think also working at shows, volunteering at shows, that is the biggest experience builder. And that's how you can learn how to run a show as well. So when I was working at like Granite Con and Hartford Con and Boston Con, that definitely gave me the experience to help.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's a lot of work, and again, it's amazing that you do it.
Well, you need, I think, at least 6 months to organize an event.
Like bare minimum to just kind of throw something together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're running just like an event that's like, we have over 100 creators. So if you're running an event that's just like 10 people, like 10 creators, like something at a little library, you know, maybe you don't need 6 months for that. But if you're having like, you know, 2 dozen workshops going on, and, you know, gaming and all these different activities, you definitely need a lot to organize that together.
Like a celebrity guest, that takes some organizing too.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And those book out way in advance.
What is the furthest you've ever traveled to go to a convention?
My furthest one is Baltimore Comic-Con, and I'd love to go out west and further south in Florida. I know there are a lot of conventions too, which I was hoping to do this year, but
everyone had plans, none of them went through.
Yeah, and I definitely would love to go to C2E2. It's another big one too, like over in Chicago.
Oh, Chicago. Okay, I wasn't familiar with that one.
Of course, I know the ones over in Europe, that would be amazing too, but
oh.
But then there's like way too much you want to see. If, you know, I've never been to Europe, so someday it'd be nice to travel again.
What about a Canadian one?
And a Canadian, yeah, Toronto, it has a big one. I would love to go there too. But maybe someday, if I can be a guest, or if anyone wants me to help them with their shows, running in a kids section or workshops, just contact me.
Get in touch with Emily. We'll have her contact info at the end. So not only do you draw comics, teach kids how to draw and put on KidsCon, but you're also a fairly avid cosplayer. You've put together some amazing costumes as well. Like I said, I picked my background here because of your Astrid costume that you had put together.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Well, my KidsCon New England mascot is a dragon. So I love dragons, and I was like, I had to be her, Astrid. So I had a little stuffed dragon that one of my friends made of our mascot. So I had that riding with me. And I also cosplayed, I can send you pictures too, but of my comic book, this character.
Oh, wow. Really?
So, yeah, so I did a furry. So that was fun. It's ironic. Almost every cosplay I do involves fur.
Not so much of a bad thing in the spring and the fall, but in the summer, it's
Yeah, at GraniteCon I did the Dark Crystal cosplay. So I created a puppet of Fizzgig.
Your Fizzgig, yeah. You had him at the expo too, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I did a couple of them. So yeah, I dressed up as the character from the Dark Crystal, and then I had, No,
it's awesome. You have your own Fizzgig.
Yeah. So I went to Ace, a local hardware store, and you can pick up fur, and they had wool and like from the local farm animals.
I feel this way sometimes when I cosplay, but when you're making something like that and you put the materials on the counter to pay for, do you ever get that kind of paranoia? It's like, they're probably thinking I'm the strangest person right now with what I have here.
Yeah, like it was summertime and I went to Walmart and I was buying all that fur, yards and yards of fur, and it's probably funny. They were like, "Oh, you building a stuffed animal?" I was like, "Yeah, a puppet. I'm doing a cosplay." But when I did my full cosplay of Kai, Warrior Princess Kai from Eplis, yeah, I had a lot of bright orange fur, and it was just all over the house. You get fur everywhere. And you still find it like months later.
So did dressing up as your character from Eplis, did that help kind of break the ice for your books? People coming up like, what character's that? Glad you asked. It's
Yeah, and actually the coolest thing and the greatest honor is I actually had fans dress up as the characters from my book.
Aww.
So, yeah, I had, so this girl here, Fleur,
yeah,
there was a little girl and she dressed up as her and she said she loved my books, and I took photos with her, and it was so awesome.
Must have been cloud nine.
At KidsCon, I had another girl that came and she decorated herself like an Eplis book cover.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and as a cosplay, and she was so excited to meet me and get my autograph. And because I think last time I was away from the table and she had my husband sign, and so I came back and I signed the book for her again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's really great to have people do that.
So your drawing workshops, can you kind of walk us through how one of those would go? Like what it is you teach kids? Yeah,
and also adults are welcome, teenagers, anyone who's a kid at heart, right? You're never too young or too old, so little babies can come in, whoever.
No age limit. That's good too.
Yeah, art's for everyone, even if you don't think you can draw. I break it down basically. I love teaching the cartooning, so I'll teach them how to draw popular characters like from Disney and cartoon shows, and break it down to basic shapes.
Okay.
So everyone like, hey, let's draw, this character is a bunch of circles and this one's more of like triangles or boxes. So I break it down that way, so to make it easy for people to draw. And so we do that together. And then I do other things. I teach more technical stuff like perspective and shading and things like that too. But when it comes to, oh, and also creating comics too. I do creating comic workshops. Yeah, and I love drawing coloring pages. So a lot of I give out free coloring pages at my kids cons and kids zones. And so I do coloring contests, and I have like prizes I give out to the kids, and they really enjoy that. And it's great to, you know, draw my own coloring pages. It's fun.
Nice. So you draw your own comics. Do you also ink and color them yourself as well?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I do the book formatting, design, everything. And I was using the Hippo press for a while, printing my books.
Oh, I was going to ask how you did your publishing.
Yep. And then I have clients who use various other ones, but I used the Hippo for a long time. So if you'd like to see more of my work, visit my website, emilyatplay.com, and you can check out my artwork, my books, where to buy my art and books, as well as lots of free coloring pages. And then if you'd like to check out my KidsCon New England events, go to kidsconne.com. And there's a link on there to our kidscononline.com. You can check out our free Comic-Con that's available to watch anytime. Yeah, we're also on Facebook too, so you can look up Emily at Play on Facebook, and also KidsCon NE on Facebook.
And if you didn't catch everything she said, don't worry, we're going to have the links and all the info just as soon as this video is over, so you can go and check it out, check out all the cool and amazing things that Emily does. As you can see, she is a very talented, very busy lady. Who clearly enjoys what she does.
And if any of you are looking for an illustrator for your children's book or comics, and also I animate characters too, feel free to send me a link. My links are there, send me a message.
That's right. Emily does commissions as well, so you can message her, let her know what you're looking for. She'll give you her specs, what she charges, all that good stuff. And again, this has been really awesome, and I really appreciate you talking to us about everything between your work and KidsCon and what it's like to be an artist and go to conventions and all of that awesome stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I wish you and your family and everyone well.
Oh, same to you, yeah. with everything that's going on.
Yeah, be safe and wear a mask.
Absolutely wear a mask. I've got some geeky ones that I've been wearing out. So thanks for tuning into this episode of CGU Learning Center. And again, thanks to Emily for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye-bye.